Friday, and it's early in the morning. Hi, David.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. Good
to see you. Yeah. Nice crowd here. And I just had this suit made.
Looks good.
I figured if Chris Christie could look good in a suit, I should be able to look good in a suit. Thank you. I feel like I'm going to stand up. So I have a strong opinion about introducing people, which is that God invented LinkedIn. He did, right? That was on the 8th day. I'm not trying to, sorry. I'm a religious guy. I shouldn't be non-religious. I shouldn't be sacrilegious. But in all seriousness, if you really want to look at David's background, there's this thing called LinkedIn. But I think one of the coolest things about David's situation probably gives him, and now I'm comparing you to a lot of our mutual friends, probably the widest variety of knowledge in the console and AAA and PC and now mobile business. Because you've been at Activision and Warner Brothers now, and that's pretty uncommon. You know, the Activision, the ex-Activision guys tend not to be at other companies. So it's nice that you brought that sort of reputation to Warner Brothers. Now, tell me a little bit about what Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment, and by the way, are you guys going to, is that the name? Will we never go to Warner Brothers Games?
We mix them. I think our official name is Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment, but we do refer to ourselves as WB Games.
Well, it's so much easier. And I noticed the email link now sometimes says that, depending on... By the way, for those of you that wanted to know, because I was confused, Warner Media is above Warner Brothers. So the Warner Brothers name lives on in history, which is important to a lot of us. Tell me a little bit about how the organization's built, and particularly for the point of view of how you went from, you know, kind of being known for a couple of games to having what, to the best of my knowledge, is almost a 100% perfect hit slate.
Well,
so what kind of,
thank you.
how have you built things for that to happen?
You know, and a lot of it got built before I've been there. I've been there for about 6 years leading the business, but we've been in the movie business for 95 plus years, television for 60 plus years, and we've been in the games business for a little over a decade. But I think the roots of our success came from our history of managing creatives, managing teams, managing talent, and building hit content. And so our same success that came from those other areas were what we applied to the games business, and it's been a great business for us. And we are the only entertainment studio that has a scaled, self-publishing games business, both on console and on mobile.
And how are you organized? I know there's this super cool office in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I know you own some studios here and there. Organizationally, you know, how many studios?
Sure.
How do you handle the flow to them?
The foundation of our success is our own studios. So we have 10 content studios. We have 2 back-end studios that provide server support and back-end support. But those 10 content studios, whether it's the NetherRealm studio, just launched Mortal Kombat, whether it's the Rocksteady and Arkham, TT Games and their Lego business. Our San Francisco studio that you referred to is actually one of the rare studios we built from scratch. That was to focus on mobile first, mobile only. And so that is a purpose-built mobile studio in San Francisco. And that team is co-developing a game with Niantic coming out called Harry Potter Wizards Unite.
So let's talk about Harry Potter Wizards Unite and your deal with Niantic, 2 pretty amazing companies, one brand new and, you know, one 100 years old. Give us some more depth on that. Obviously, your IP, everybody may not, you know, fully know the relationship with Rowling. And then how did you get in business with them? What are they doing? What are you doing?
Well, we were such admirers of what they've done, their point of view of moving gaming from the living room to getting literally mapping the world and turning it into gamification. Their notion of getting people off the couch to walk and to be active and to be out, connecting millions and millions of people and points of interest on maps. So we were intrigued with what they'd done, and the intersection of the Harry Potter world, where the line between the wizarding world and the real world is very thin, lent itself to augmented reality. So we couldn't be happier to partner with them, and they'll be publishing this game, we're co-developing it with them, and it's in a soft launch right now in the market, and it will be coming soon.
What markets is the soft launch in?
It's
Come on, they can go look in the Philippines.
yes,
make it easier.
It's
for
actually
them.
in New Zealand.
Okay,
Started
so
last Wednesday.
New Zealand
so
for all of you
early start.
who make a habit of, you don't do it too many times, Apple will cut your phone off. So you're only allowed so many countries. So I remember, and I'm sure you do too, when Harry Potter, when Pokemon Go launched, crowds of people, right? Hundreds of people in parks all around.
Sure.
Is this the same sort of thing? Are you out searching for objects and you find them and you work as a team? And
Yeah, and we've done a first look of the game assets, and so reviewers are actually talking about it and writing about it. And we built a lot of that same game design in, but also built game designs that are true to the IP and true to the Harry Potter world. And bringing augmented reality and magic together on your phone, next generation AR, but some of the same themes of getting out and walking and being active in the community, connecting with fans is the same general design thesis that also went into this game.
a little bit more of a home game also, or is it just out in the outside world?
It'll be a mix of gameplay and game systems, so it'll be a mix.
And how do you guys work with that sort of IP that you've operated for 20 years or
Right,
something,
right.
but somebody else owns it, right? J.K. Rowling. Is she involved in the process somehow?
Yeah, we work closely with the teams to align with the property creator, the property owner, and we work well together to build content in this space. And we established Portkey Games recently to provide that space so that games could have narrative and story that works for that game design.
Excellent. Well, people will. There's an approximate date, right, for full launch?
Yeah, we're not announcing any timing.
Okay.
So.
Time, quarter of the year? Year?
Mike,
Okay.
we're not announcing any timing now. Come on.
All right. Well, let's go to further sensitive questions then. As long as I already managed to get myself in trouble. So, Ma Bell bought a whole bunch of assets recently.
Sure.
Time Warner.
Yeah.
And you guys, I know, worked with them for quite a while on the lead up to the closing of the sale. Tell us what it's like. What's it like in Warner Brothers now with new owners?
Well, in many respects, our priorities remain consistent with the priorities of Warner Media, and in some sense unchanged for games. Our priorities were to build must-have content and premium content, to be a home for the greatest creators, in this case our own studios, to increasingly build entertainment and engagement that goes directly to consumer, or over the top as we call that, and increasingly use information and data and analytics to be able to delight and engage millions and millions of users. So those are the priorities of Warner Media, and those are the same priorities that we've been operating with for many years in games. And so in that sense, there's a consistency, and we feel like our role is to get more players engaged in more games and to have must-have content and deliver it to the consumer in a way that delights and excites them, and you'll find success in that.
You know, it's interesting because 10 years ago people would have said, well, AT&T doesn't own TV stations. They don't have shelf space on TVs. And now it turns out that they have a huge amount of shelf space on what is actually the new TV, right?
Sure, and you know, of course, it's been a great time to be in games, and particularly over the last 5 years, driven by the billions of new gamers that have come into it because of new devices and new screens, more computing power, augmented reality coming to your phones, more attached players on consoles than ever before, more engaged. So it's a great time to be in games and to be in a business of creating premier content, and that's really what we see our mission is.
Okay, I think everybody would love to hear a little bit more about Mortal Kombat.
Sure.
I guess because you already launched it, we can announce today
That's right.
for the first time that it's already been launched.
That's right. Yes, you're allowed to. We can't talk about it. Yeah, we did. Mortal Kombat NetherRealm Studios, we were fortunate enough to actually acquire out of bankruptcy, the Midway bankruptcy, several years back, and this franchise is now 27 years old, and the team at NetherRealm, including the co-creator Ed Boon, and that team is still in place, building amazing content. And so we launched Mortal Kombat 11 yesterday, and the results have just sort of come in, and I can say that it's the largest launch in franchise history. And in the Americas, it's the largest launch in Warner Brothers Games history. And we have more players on more devices, on more screens than ever before in its history. And so it's really a testament to that team that continues to innovate. There's very few things in entertainment that you can say it's 25 plus years old and is bigger, stronger, and better than before. So we couldn't be more proud of that team and what they've done and the innovation that they've brought to that.
You made reference to it, but it was quick, so let's emphasize this point. What platforms are you on?
Well, we're on all three consoles, PC, and then we also have a mobile game that's been out actually since 2015. So millions of monthly active users and daily active users in that franchise, and we couldn't be more thrilled for the team.
Is it your first Switch game, or have you guys done Switch games before?
On Mortal Kombat, it's the first Switch on Mortal Kombat. So
It wasn't on Wii.
No.
And this is now. So how does this work in your mind? You have this sort of game. It's going to have a life. It's a live operating game. Mm-hmm. You don't know exactly how long. So over time you have to kind of work that into your plan. How do you balance this idea of, well, we've got this game, and based on other things you guys have done, you've got huge life with some of these games.
Yeah.
The Game of Thrones has had a huge life to it, right?
Right.
Versus introducing brand new games. I mean, is it just is this something you guys talk about, or do you assume the average live game is going to have X years?
Well, we believe that ultimately there's a mix in our portfolio, but we are fortunate to have these enormous franchises with long history with gamers, long loved, large communities that we can engage in. So in the case of Mortal Kombat, it's actually a lot easier for us to plan years of new content that will be added to MK11, and that is in our plan, and we are planning to do that. And it's very easy as an investor to say that makes sense, because we know that franchise is around and strong, as I've sort of referenced and said. Our other games, you actually mentioned Game of Thrones. That's actually a mobile game, and one of the brightest spots in Warner Brothers games right now is our overall mobile portfolio. But that runs much more as a live operation and a live service, and every day you're building content and events and economies and engagement and tools to keep a player base excited. And we're getting stronger and stronger at live operations, which is really the key factor for success for us in the mobile business.
And does that push you harder for live operations in PC and console?
Yes, I think that we see those same trends and same themes being consistent across platforms in some sense, and very different in one's a pure free-to-play business in the mobile business, and our console business is a mix and not free-to-play. But in general, this idea of aggregating as many players as possible, keeping them retained and playing as long as possible, keeping them engaged in the content, offering them new content over time that you may or may not be able to monetize, we think are consistent themes no matter where you're building games.
And what is what is your leadership position around microtransactions and downloadable content and added pay for? I assume added free things everybody likes.
This is yes, research will tell you that.
Research will tell you that.
So
research would also suggest people are loving their DLC and their microtransactions.
If you have an engaged player base that is retaining and playing for long periods of time, and you find ways to offer them new content, that's a good business. But our focus starts with how do you keep them engaged and how do you keep them there. We believe this Mortal Kombat game will be played more hours than any other Mortal Kombat game in its history. And that's a combination of the story mode, of course, but also the systems that are built into that game, the customization that's put into that game. So we are building games that are built for long-term engagement, no matter what platform that we're building it on and what business model.
Now, how does that speak to making games that might be good esports?
Sure.
And how do you think about that?
Yeah, we think, and certainly, Mortal Kombat in some sense was one of the original PvP games, right? So everybody remembers that game in the arcade. So
You're
it
all
was
too
that
young.
that game happens to be built for competitive play. Happens to be built for that kind of esports competition. And we've been using esports for many years in the fighting genre as an engagement tool, bringing people together, running tournaments, giving the ability to the gamers to be on a competitive landscape, in some cases prize package. But our view of esports has been through the lens of driving engagement for our biggest franchises.
Have you had the chance to see, and who out here has had the chance to see the HyperX Luxor Esports Arena? Have you seen it yet?
I have not seen it yet.
Anybody gone and seen it? Oh, you got it. Oh my God, amazing. Oh, thanks a lot. Because anybody, it is amazing. All day long, running. Kids can go in there for $25 an hour. I want this business, and just play any PC game. And then they can have 1,000 people for a competition, and everybody who flies into Vegas sees it. I mean, I've never seen that much signage for golf or bowling.
Right.
So something tells me this is going to be around for a while. But you guys don't sit in the very earliest days and say, let's make an esport, do you?
No, we don't. That's not the lens that we greenlight games. But we certainly do think about the lens of what's going to drive long-term engagement of this game, and that competitive play is actually a key driver of that. We increasingly think about, will this be fun to watch as well as to play, because the nature of streaming and that aspect of games is so important to the publishing now of the ecosystem. So we don't start out with that single lens, but we do think about all those factors that lead to creating a success and building a hit.
Think about it. You and your team have to play all these games, watch all these YouTube clips of these games, and now you have to watch hours of Twitch.
That's right.
That's a time-consuming job. So give us a little bit more of the background, and then we'll have to wrap up here. Since, as you said, you only got into mobile, what did you say, 10 years ago? Or only into games 10 years ago?
Yeah, I think that...
What was the first game? Do either of us remember? I have no idea.
Remy, first game?
They came out of the company? I don't remember.
It was a Looney Tunes game, self-published.
Okay.
About 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. So tell us a little bit about how mobile's going to be, in the next couple of years.
Yeah,
where it's going.
Mobile's a real bright spot for our company right now, and it's the fastest growing segment of our business. And in Q1 of this year, in the Americas, we're the #7 publisher. We were the second fastest growing mobile games company last year in the Americas. And that's built on a portfolio of games, but particularly 2 hit games that consistently can get into the top 10. Golf Clash, that came from our Playdemic studio in the UK, and Game of Thrones, which is being published out of our Boston studio.
Well, simple movies can have simple games. I guess Jaws is eating it up on the charts, no pun intended, for NBCU. Do we have a clip of the trailer of Mortal Kombat? Only been out for less than 24 hours.
Actually, I think this is
36 hours. Oh, this
is a mixed trailer of a variety of things that we've talked about today already. So including Golf Clash, Game of Thrones, and Mortal Kombat.
This is why you should all buy AT&T stock right here. I wasn't paid. I wasn't paid to say that.
Brothers Games brings the biggest brands in the world to life. With major franchises on both console and mobile, we're everywhere gamers play. And in 2019, gamers will spend more time playing our games than ever before. Get over here!
The end. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, David.
Great, thank you.